Well, there's an old horse in the pasture, just like me, he's seen his better days. But he sniffs the air this morning, and his eyes take on an old familiar glare. He kicks his heels and throws his head and looks right at me like I understood that it's springtime in the country, and the pasture grass is green in that greenwood. There's a bullfrog in the bog behind my house, and he'll be making such a sound along late in the afternoon, right up till the evening sun goes down. And he's happy to be living in a world of little hits and rotten home. And it's springtime in the country, and the pasture grass is green.
The 17th Hope Festival was held on April 30th in the Student Recreation Center at the University of Maine, Orono. HOPE stands for Help Organize Peace Earthwide. One of the consistent organizers was the Peace and Justice Center of Eastern Maine. Over 70 social change groups presented at the annual event. This year's festival keynote speaker was Jim Merkel. Jim's the author of Radical Simplicity, a book about the Earth's finite resources and what we can do to save them and ourselves. Jim was an electrical engineer and very much a part of the military-industrial complex. Jim speaks with authority about what our corporations and our military are really up to. But first, we'll hear the Hope Festival singers warming up, an opening prayer from Penobscot elder Arnold Neptune, and a couple snippets from Maine's own David Mallet, who was gracious enough to allow them to be seen and heard on this program. And now, the blessing.
The great creator of all things, in our language we call him Continuous. And Continuous is the one who made the entire universe and made the planetary system that exists now. He made the sun, the wild sun, and he made Mother Moon, Mother Earth, and made also Grandmother Moon, and made all of our ancestors and all our people, and made everything that's here right now. Here because Continuous made it possible. So I thank Continuous. I ask Continuous to bless everyone here, because every one of you has a spirit of the Creator inside, and it will always be there. So this is what we would pray for, and I ask Continuous to really watch over us and make sure that we have a good meeting and that everybody is very, very happy.
Along late in the afternoon, right up till the evening sun goes down. And he's happy to be living in a world of little hits and rotten home. And it's springtime in the country, and the pasture grass is green. It's green and up really good, looking mighty fine. Every little sun coming right on time across the field, up and
Wow, it's exciting to be here. When they called me and invited me, I was completely honored and also just blown away by this the continued efforts for a peaceful planet. And I just love the acronym of HOPE, and I didn't even know what it was until I read it, but help organize peace earthwide. And what could be more important these days, the days that we're alive? And we're all born into a time, a flow of history, and Edward Abbey said he wished he was born 100 years earlier or 100 years later. Just listening to David Mallet, I was crying. And I couldn't sing his songs. I would just fall in tears. If I could sing, that would be one thing. But even if I couldn't sing his songs. And like he says, the pastured grass is greening up real good. That was his first song today. And that made me cry, that line. The pastured grass is greening up real good. Because we look around ourselves and there is just so much life and beauty and sustainability all around us that we will know how to do it when we finally decide we're going to do it. And his music is just so powerful for that reason, you know, because if we can carry that feeling in us as we go around with this very important and very difficult work to make world peace, with our belief bigger than our doubt, we're going to have that beauty in our spirit as we engage with others, and it's going to be a little magnetic. So, and we'll get some really good work done. I was just looking at the booths today: restorative justice, teaching respect, bringing our war dollars home, Amnesty International, Restore, Quaker Friends, Youth and Militarism, not getting them into it, but getting them not to go into it, Green Party, Humane Education, Humanists and Free Thinkers, Resources for Organizing for Social Justice, PICA, Camp Forest, Transition Towns, and the Belfast group is called BADDY. You know, we have the battiest acronyms in Maine. You know, we got the best titles for our hairdressers, Curl Up and Die. Just leave it to Maine, you know. We're just an amazing place. And it's fun to be here. And when I was a kid, you know, in 1964, 65, like my whole family would go to the beach for like Saturday and Sunday. We could walk to the beach from our house. My mom had a daycare center with like 80 children coming every day after she had 9 of her own. And she had 11 employees. She didn't have a computer. She did the taxes, the payroll herself. And on the weekend, she didn't have a fax machine. And she didn't do any work for 2 days on the weekend. She just was with the family to go to the beach. Like, who here has Saturday and Sunday off, you know? I don't remember her being like chronically stressed. You know, maybe she was, but I don't know. It was a different time in a way, but who here feels like day to day they have like, they're not stressed? Like, we have one. We're alive at a unique time. You know, I worked at Dartmouth College as their sustainability coordinator for 2 years, and the only answer I got in 2 years for the question of how are you is busy. I didn't get another answer. And I'm just wondering, like, what is happening? You know, how come my mom had 9 employees and 80 kids and have the weekend off? And that was in the 60s. And all this technology was supposed to make our lives better. So we have to really be more discerning and critical, I find, these days. I want to start with a reading, if I can. It's from Radical Simplicity, and it's how I open the book. And I say, imagine you are at a potluck buffet and you see you're the first in line. How do you know how much to take? Imagine that this potluck spread includes not just food and water, but also materials needed for shelter, clothing, healthcare, and education. It all looks and smells so good and you are hungry. What will you heap onto your plate? How much is enough to leave for your neighbors behind you in the line? Now extend this cornucopia to today's global economy where the necessities for life come from around the world. 6 billion people, shoulder to shoulder, form a line that circles around the globe to Cairo, onto Hawaii, over ocean bridges, and then back around the globe again 180 more times. As a recovering engineer, I actually lined up 5 people and measured how much length we were, and then multiplied it by 7 billion, and we actually do circle the earth, just us humans, 180 times with plates in hand, Those behind you, they too wait in line, hearty appetites in place, and along with them are the giraffes and klipspringers, manatees and spiders, untold millions of species, billions of unique beings, all with the same lusty appetite. And behind them, the soon-to-be-born children, cubs, and larvae. A harmonious feast might just be possible, but it requires a bit of restraint, or shall we say attained appetite, as our plate becomes a shopping cart, becomes a pickup truck, filling our house, attic, basement, garage, and maybe even a rented storage unit with nature transformed into things. As we sit down for a good hearty meal with new friends and creatures from around the world, what level of equity would we feel really great about? At what level of inequity would we say, wait a minute, that's not fair? So, you know, as a kid with the family business, and I'm living in the basement with my black light posters and my drum set, and at 7 in the morning, parents are dropping off their kids, you know, and going to work. And so I got to understand kids a bit, you know. And if you say to a kid like, 1 for you, 1 for me, 1 for you, 2 for me, fine. 1 for you, 3 for me, you know. And then 1 for you, 4 for me, they're like, wait a minute, that's not fair, you know. It's like 3-year-old has an innate sense of justice. Like, they know fair, that's not fair. Well, right now it's 250 to 1. The richest billion to the poorest billion. And me living on like 5,000 a year is my experiment, more or less, for like 20 years, kind of up and down a little bit, but I'm still in the richest billion, you know. But how do we get to be 250 to 1 and we're adults? You know, the kids would never let the world get this unequal. You know, a 3-year-old would not let us go on like this. They would bust us, parents, and they'd say, you're busted, man, this is not fair. Let's make it fair. So, you know, somehow we can rationalize injustice, and I think that's a key here. It's easy in a way to be unconsciously unsustainable. You know, there's kind of an ease to that. You just don't know. And I was there for years of my life. I was an engineer. I was not conscious of my unsustainability. Just going on living life is quite exciting, actually.